Talk about your mixed bag of emotions. I've got good things to talk about, and I got some pretty bad things to talk about. But believe me, I'll talk about them. Welcome back to Rob's Feed today. This is episode number 97, and I'm Rob Shundle. First off, let me talk about the weather. It's the 24th of January, and the last few days here in Chicago really sucked. I mean, it was brutal cold. It could be 9 degrees, and wind chills far below that. I wouldn't even look. I didn't want to see what the wind chill was. And here, I have to go out in that weather, and I have to be out there, and I have to wait for the goddamn bus. And I lived. But today, the projected high is, wait for it, 32. I almost feel like I could think about going to the beach today, but I'm not. I'm going to talk to you instead. And then there's more good news for Illinois, for those of us in Illinois who are gay. Because, late last year, if you remember, both houses of the Illinois legislature passed the civil unions bill. And do you know what? 1 week from today, that's Monday, January 31st, our Governor Pat Quinn, with great fanfare, is going to sign that bill here in Chicago, right down the loop at the Cultural Center, 4 o'clock p.m. I think I might show up there, and I'll bring my video camera and let you see the signing itself. I've never been to a bill signing by any executive. It'll be kind of neat to be there. If I can get in. There may be so damn many people there, I won't even have a chance to get in. But I'm kind of excited about that. And why is that? Because, it's not marriage, and I wish it was marriage, and it should be marriage. But it's a step in that direction. And you know what? Marriage equality, in my opinion, that is that is the ultimate goal. That when that is granted, marriage equality again, there will no longer be discrimination for gay people. That's the last hurdle. So I'm looking forward to this, even though it's not quite there. It's close, getting there. A little follow-up to a good story from last year. It ended up being a good story. Do you remember that to-do about this homophobic assistant attorney general by the name of Andrew Chervell over in the state of Michigan, who had this big campaign primarily focused against one individual. This big anti-gay campaign against University of Michigan Ann Arbor student body president Chris Armstrong, which labeled him as a racist with a radical homosexual agenda. And after a bit, he kept his job, even though he was all over the national media talking about this. And finally, the Attorney General in Michigan, who probably shares the same views, fired him. And now they're saying that he had been warned prior to that. I think this guy's a little feminine himself, and I think that's really the reason for this big obsession with Chris Armstrong. But he had been warned not to use state resources to wage this campaign. But he did it anyway. He's gone. Bye-bye. So as I said, he's not only effeminate, but he's got the squeaky voice, and he's just the kind of middle-aged, fat, closeted gay. What do you do if you're a closeted gay? Well, you show you're not. I've said this so fucking many times before. You prove you're not gay yourself. You don't want to find out you wage an attack on someone who is gay. Oh, I'm not gay. See, I pick on the gay guys. Bye-bye. I'd like to congratulate about 50 people out in the state of Wyoming. You remember me saying last week I listed the most tolerant and the least tolerant states, and if you remember, Wyoming came, what was it, dead last? Well, Wyoming gay rights activists over the weekend rallied to protest a state bill that would prohibit recognition of out-of-state marriages for same-sex couples. In Casper, about 50 people turned up for a pro-marriage equality rally, waving signs reading "Civil Rights for Wyomingites," and to protect our people like we protect guns. This was reported in the Casper Star-Tribune. The University of Wyoming students also protested the bill, which is HB 74, over in Laramie. If the bill passes its third reading in the State House Monday, the legislation will then be debated in the Senate. Well, good for them. I'm so pleased that that's got to be tough. At least 50 people in Wyoming, the least tolerant state in the nation, standing up for our rights. Thank you, guys and gals. Now, believe it or not, I actually have more good news. Tomorrow is the third time our president goes to the Hall of the House of Representatives and delivers his State of the Union address. That's always a big deal. The gallery's all full of invited guests along with the First Lady. But guess who will be seated right there with the First Lady, Michelle Obama? None other than our new gay hero, intern Daniel Hernandez. I don't know him well enough to call him Danny yet. He'll be acknowledged right there in Congress, and I assume he will get a standing ovation again for saving Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords' life the other week. That horrible incident in Tucson. But again, I just wish more people were aware that this is a gay young man. But it's still good news. Now, I said that today's episode was a mixed bag. There was good things I want to talk about and some bad things I want to mention. But I haven't mentioned any really bad things yet. So I'm going to go to the background. If you remember, I've said it more than once. That, I'm one of those people who have cut the cable. I don't even have a television set that's plugged in any longer. I get all my entertainment, all my media, all my news, everything from the computer. And one of the things every day that I truly look forward to all day is when it's around 11 o'clock in the evening, iTunes will deliver to me that day's episode of Countdown with Keith Olbermann. And now that won't happen anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know what will happen when it's time for me to go to bed tonight, and I won't have any Keith to watch. I'm very, very upset about this one. And I have let the people at MSNBC know by signing a petition about that. Why am I so crazy about Keith Olbermann? Well, happened a couple of years ago. Do you remember the euphoria we all felt? Jack, a little more than 2 years ago, back in November of that year, 2008, we elected the first black president, the first Democrat in a long time, Mr. Barack Obama. We elected Democratic majorities, substantial majorities, in both the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. And everything was just wonderful, except for one thing. Out there in California, there was a measure on the ballot that would take away the right that same-sex couples had to marry each other, a right that had previously been granted by a decision handed down by the California Supreme Court. And the Mormons and the right wings and the nuts and the fruitcakes, and they got together this proposition called 8, rhymes with hate, and they overturned the decision, again making it illegal for any same-sex people to marry. Well, Keith Olbermann had something to say about that, and my God, that commentary of his, that's when I fell in love with it. I'm going to share that with you now.
Finally tonight, as promised, a special comment on the passage last week of Proposition 8 in California, which rescinded the right of same-sex couples to marry and tilted the balance on this issue from coast to coast. Some parameters as preface. This isn't about yelling, and this isn't about politics, and this isn't really just about Prop 8. And I don't have a personal investment in this. I'm not gay. I had to strain to think of one member of even my very extended family who is. I have no personal stories of close friends or colleagues fighting prejudice that still pervades their lives. And yet, to me, this vote is horrible. Horrible. Because this isn't about yelling, and this isn't about politics. This is about the human heart. And if that sounds corny, so be it. If you voted for this proposition, or you support those who did, or the sentiment they expressed, I have some questions, because truly, I do not understand. Why does this matter to you? What is it to you? In a time of impermanence and fly-by-night relationships, these people over here want the same chance at permanence and happiness that is your option. They don't want to deny you yours. They don't want to take anything away from you. They want what you want, a chance to be a little less alone in the world. Only now you are saying to them, no, you can't have it on these terms. Maybe something similar if they behave, if they don't cause too much trouble. You'll even give them all the same legal rights, even as you are taking away the legal right which they already had. A world around them still anchored in love and marriage, and you're saying, no, you can't marry. What if somebody passed a law that said you couldn't marry? I keep hearing this term, redefining marriage. If this country hadn't redefined marriage, black people still couldn't marry white people. 16 states had laws on the books which made that illegal in 1967. 1967. The parents of the president-elect of the United States could not have married in nearly 1/3 of the states of the country their son grew up to lead. But it's worse than that. If this country had not redefined marriage, some black people still couldn't marry other black people. It is one of the most overlooked and cruelest parts of our sad history of slavery. Marriages were not legally recognized if the people were slaves. Since slaves were property, they could not be legally husband and wife, nor mother and child. Their marriage vows were different. Not until death do you part, but until death or distance do you part. Marriages among slaves were not legally recognized. You know, just like marriages today in California are not legally recognized if the people are gay. And uncountable in our history are the number of men and women forced by society into marrying the opposite sex in sham marriages, or marriages of convenience, or just marriages of not knowing. Centuries of men and women who have lived their lives in shame and unhappiness, and who have, through a lie to themselves or others, broken countless other lives of spouses and children, all because we said a man could not marry another man, or a woman could not marry another woman. The sanctity of marriage. How many marriages like that have there been? And how on earth do they increase the sanctity of marriage rather than render that term meaningless? What is this to you? Nobody is asking you to embrace their expression of love. But don't you as human beings have to embrace that love? The world is barren enough. It is stacked against love and against hope and against those very few and precious emotions that enable us, all of us, to go forward. Your marriage only stands a 50-50 chance of lasting, no matter how much you feel and how hard you work. And here are people overjoyed at the prospect of just that chance and that work just for the hope of having that feeling. With so much hate in the world, with so much meaningless division, and people pitted against each other for no good reason, this is what your religion tells you to do? With your experience of life and this world and all its sadnesses, this is what your conscience tells you to do? With your knowledge that life, with endless vigor, seems to tilt the playing field in which we all live in favor of unhappiness and hate, this is what your heart tells you to do? You want to sanctify marriage? You want to honor your God and the universal love you believe he represents? Then spread happiness. This tiny, symbolic, semantical grain of happiness. Share it with all those who seek it. Quote me anything from your religious leader or book of choice telling you to stand against this. And then tell me how you can believe both that statement and another statement, and another one which reads only, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You are asked now by your country, perhaps by your Creator, to stand on one side or another. You are asked now to stand not on a question of politics, not on a question of religion, not on a question of gay or straight. You are asked now to stand on a question of love. All you need to do is stand and let the tiny ember of love meet its own fate. You don't have to help it. You don't have to applaud it. You don't have to fight for it. Just don't put it out. Just don't extinguish it. Because while it may at first look like that love is between two people you don't know and you don't understand and maybe you don't even want to know, that love is in fact the ember of your love for your fellow person. Just because this is the only world we have and the other guy counts too. This is the second time I have found myself in 10 days concluding by turning to, of all things, the closing plea for mercy by Clarence Darrow in a murder trial. But what he said fits what is really at the heart of all of this. He said, I was reading last night of the aspiration of the old Persian poet Omar Khayyam. This is what he told the judge. It appealed to me as the highest that I can vision. I wish it was in my heart. I wish it was in the hearts of all. So I be written in the book of love. I do not care about that book above. Erase my name or write it as you will. So I be written in the book of love. Good night and good luck.
And now maybe you can see why I'm so terribly upset about losing Keith Olbermann. He was such a wonderful advocate for me and for you. Now, I know that he's not going to retire. He'll show up someplace, but the nature of these things always have a covenant not to compete clause in the contract. So he won't be on television for a while. Maybe he possibly on the radio, maybe the internet, someplace. I don't think we can keep him quiet. But I sure hope he keeps us informed as to where to find his messages. Again, I want to thank you for watching. If you are new to Rob's Feed today, thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe, please rate, please comment. And having said all that, I'm going to try to cheer up. I think that's all I'm going to say.